How's everybody doing on day 2 of IBC 2018? My name is Carl Soule. I work in the Adobe Hollywood office focused on feature film and broadcast workflows.
Hey everybody, I'm Neil Stevens, Senior Solutions Consultant for Pro Video and Broadcast in the UK.
And we're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so talking about collaborative workflows for film and television, using a couple of different ways of doing collaboration, because as I have up on the screen there, collaboration means different things to different groups of people. Really, we see two different groups. It really falls into two big buckets of style of collaboration that we typically see people wanting to work in. One is a group of editors, usually like a lead editor and a group of assistant editors that are working on a large project, usually a lot of assets coming in. In a lot of cases, they're in one centralized location, but they need to have an effective way of breaking up the workflow so that everybody can work on something a little bit different and not step on each other, but at the same time, kind of keep track of what people are working on. The other method of collaboration is a little bit more forward-thinking, and it's generally leveraging the cloud. People want to be able to collaborate across distances. They're using tools like Aspera Client, Dropbox, Creative Cloud files to synchronize assets to different locations. People are taking copies of drives to different places. And really what they need to be able to do is share their edits back and forth really, really efficiently. And sometimes these teams can be scattered worldwide trying to work together. So at Adobe, we didn't want to limit the type of collaboration people want to do using the Creative Cloud tools. So we actually have two separate styles of collaboration that we can do inside of Premiere. The first is shared projects. This kind of appeals to people that are within one central location. They're using some kind of shared storage and maybe have hundreds of thousands of different files that they're working with for things like feature film editors, network dramas, those types of shows. And they need a situation that is familiar to them, that allows them to each open up a section of a project, lock it down so nobody else can make changes to that segment, but other people can look at what they're doing and pull from what they're working on. For that type of workflow, we have something called shared projects, which is built into Premiere Pro. It leverages the project locking that we have, the ability to have multiple open projects at the same time, and it also makes sure that you can organize things in sort of a master project and see who is working on what piece of the project at any given time. Now, the one we're going to show you first is something different. This is called Team Projects. This is a service that is built inside of Creative Cloud. It leverages Creative Cloud and it leverages your Adobe ID, and anybody else who has an Adobe ID worldwide can collaborate together on the same project. It works with both After Effects, it works with Premiere Pro, and it also works with Media Encoder. And it uses things like the invite notification system so that you can see when somebody else is making changes to the project. And it has a really nice conflict resolution system that prevents people from stepping on each other's work or just letting you know who is currently working on what. So we're going to start with Team Projects. We're going to spend some time working inside of Team Projects. And I've actually got a couple of different Team Projects open right now. I've got one for IBC 2018 that's got a lot of wonderful footage inside of it that was shot from one of our partners, Sibelsart. I can't even say it. Sibelsalts?
Sounds about right.
I think that's right. From Germany. So we have a lot of wonderful footage that we're working on a promo. And at the same time, I've actually got a promo from last year, something that Jason Levine was working on. And I've got a copy of that. We're going to be making some changes to this as well. So you can see, even with Team Projects, I can have multiple Team Projects open at the same time. And if I wanted to add a third project, Team Projects are different from regular Premiere Pro projects. So when I want to create a team project, I do have to specify that I'm making a team project, because the project data doesn't just live on a file on my local drive, it lives in a database in the cloud. In fact, nobody can see the project even exists unless you invite them in to see the project file. So if I create a new team project, I can give it a name, I can give it a description, but most importantly, I need to know the Adobe IDs of the people that I'm going to invite. So every one of you, if you're a Creative Cloud member, you have an Adobe ID that you can use to sign into your Creative Cloud membership. We use that Adobe ID as a way of inviting and knowing who is doing the collaboration. So in this case, I might want to invite Niels. I can see he already shows up in my list here. If I wanted to invite somebody else, I could invite Jason Levine to this, and so on and so forth. So I can add as many collaborators as I want to my team project. I'm going to go ahead and close this, actually, not create a team project. It looks like I can already see I've got a timeline from one team project here and another timeline here, and you'll notice one different thing about, I think my mouse just died. Oh, there we go. Connected again. You'll notice these little yellow icons here. I can tell that Niels and I are actually working on these timelines. I can see what he's doing. He's actually already edited and made some changes to this Jason Levine timeline here. And I can see he's also doing a bit of work inside this timeline. So at a glance, anything that's inside of a team project, I can see who is currently working on what, so that I know not to jump into those timelines. We keep one team project, can have many sequences in it, so we can each be editing and working on our own bits and pieces of the project. If I jump over, I've got my Carl timeline here, and I'm going to go back to my the 2018 project here and just grab a couple of clips that I know we want to use a little bit later on, just make some selects here, pull these in, throw them on the timeline. The only difference interface-wise when you're working with a team project has a couple of extra buttons at the bottom. It's got a couple of extra interface controls. Here, I can see at a glance who is working on the team project. These little bubbles indicate who owns the project, who else is actually working on it, and whether they're online or not. I can add more people by clicking the plus button and invite more collaborators. And then down here at the bottom, we have two additional buttons: Get Changes, Share Changes. So while I am editing stuff, I am in a sandbox. Nobody else will see my changes. They know what timeline I'm editing, but they won't actually see those changes take effect until they pull down the latest changes, until I push my changes up to the server and say, this is what I want to share with the group. So I don't have to worry about somebody making a judgment on me because I've got clips scattered around in the timeline and I'm experimenting and making changes. I can wait and push those changes as necessary. I'm going to go ahead and get Niels's changes. I want to see what he's done to some of these sequences here. So I'm going to go ahead and push this Get Latest Changes button. And by doing so, I'm getting the latest version of the IBC 2018 project. So any changes Niels made to the other sequence automatically update. And I can see he's done a little bit of moving around of some clips over in this project here. I'm going to go ahead now and share the changes I've made to the Carl timeline. Say added 3 selects. It's nothing more stressful than typing live on stage. It's important that I add a comment in there because this is metadata that we can use later on so that I can actually find, if I want to go back in time and look at things, I can find this revision that I've made. Niels, why don't we jump in and see what you've been working on?
That sounds good. So now when we head over to my desktop, you'll see I've got an instantaneous update that shows me. We just missed the notification actually, but so much of your experience now with the Creative Cloud is governed by your identity and by who you are signed in as, regardless of which device you're on. So that notification appeared in the bottom right-hand corner of my desktop that I'm signed in right here. It also would have come up on my phone because I have the Creative Cloud up on there. any other app, tablet, platform apps I've got, platform devices, you're going to see the same notification. So the way that manifests itself now inside the interface, and this is really the key, if you're already a Premiere user, there is no learning curve to use team projects. You just have to understand two new buttons, and Carl showed them to you already. They exist here in the bottom right-hand corner of the window. Get changes and share changes. So I haven't actually been doing anything since Carl finished up and shared his changes. So I'm just going to resolve the project now by retrieving those changes. And then it will dynamically update, and added to my team project now is the new Carl sequence. So there it is. There's his assembly with 3 shots. So while Carl is getting on with whatever he's doing, I'm going to go ahead and add a caption to that. So if I select the text tool and I just go ahead and type on there, truck wide shot. As soon as I've added that caption clip onto the sequence there, the system knows that I have made a new change. But right now, I'm only in my own personal sandbox. So any changes I'm trying out now, then I'm not committed to those. I can try things out. I can see how they look, see if I'm happy with something. When I get to the stage where it makes sense to share these changes with Carl from a workflow perspective, I go ahead and hit the share button. And as Carl rightly points out, you get out what you put in. It's important to put comment-based metadata in here because, as we'll see in a little while, you actually keep your entire project history right back to the ingest of the very first clip. So it's really important to have comment-based metadata reminding yourself what you did. You know, it could be a week ago. So in this case, I added a caption. Go ahead and click share. And now that becomes the new version of the truth of this project to anybody synchronizing and checking that sequence out. Okay, so we pass back to Carl.
All right. So on my system, I haven't been touching the Carl sequence, and I get a nice little yellow notification here that lets me know that Niels has actually shared changes to this. You get the little pencil icon to indicate they've got that timeline is open, they're going to be working on it. So I can always tell at a glance who is working on which sequence. But in this case, Niels has actually pushed some changes to this timeline. Now I could do something really, really dangerous here. And this is where you just need to have a bit of communication of what's going on. I know Niels has pushed changes to this timeline. I'm going to do something I shouldn't really do. I'm going to make some more changes to this timeline. So I haven't seen what Niels has added yet. I'm going to go ahead and just add another clip, but I'm going to put it right in the way of what Niels just did. So this is the worst case scenario. You're working together. We're not communicating anymore. We're mad at each other, and communication is broke down. I knew Niels made changes to this. I ignored those changes, and I added on top of what I already had. That's why I'm getting this red little indicator here. It's letting me know that I've edited the asset, but Niels already shared changes that superseded what I had on the timeline. What happens in this case? Well, all I have to do, I'll go ahead and get the changes by clicking this button here. And in the background, the server keeps track of what's going on. And so it knows there's a conflict, and now it gives me an option of what I can do here. I can either keep my version. Now that would be the really mean thing to do. That means that I would get rid of Niels's changes. But depending on the structure within your facility, that might be the right answer. If a lead editor is doing something and an assistant is kind of experimenting around with some stuff, maybe you don't want to keep those changes. You want to go with the lead version. I could take Niels's version. In fact, that's what I think I'm going to do in this case. I want to see what he did, and I just made a small change so we don't have to go down the path of 2 timelines. But if I did need to, if we both started editing the same sequence and he made major changes, I made major changes, we have the option of branching at this point, having 2 sequences so we can visually review, get back on track, and then merge those changes together. So in this case, I'll go ahead and say take the shared version. I want to see your graphics here. And we'll let this go ahead and resolve the conflicts. All conflicts were successfully resolved. And now I have your graphic on top of the sequence. So wonderful.
Perfect. Order is restored.
Now, Niels, do you want to take some time and show the media browser? And
Yeah, why don't I do that? So
Okay.
basically, this is where the guardrails are in team projects. This conflict resolution engine is going to prevent you from losing any work or making any mistakes or overwriting stuff by accident. It's got your back. It's storing all of the versions of the project. But the real get out of jail free card is the actual history slider inside the media browser. So if I zoom on over to the media browser here, this is actually Team Projects savvy. So in addition to being able to browse local drives and local network resources, I can actually also see all of the team projects I'm currently participating in on the server. Having highlighted the IBC 2018 project I'm now working in, you will see over here, there's a nice little time machine, what we call the Team Project version slider. And this is where, as we mentioned earlier, the essential importance of adding metadata. As I slide that back down, I can go back to any historical version of the project, and you can see at the top of the screen there what time it was shared, and I can see in the little floating window what comments I added with relation to that shifted caption, you see. And I can go, as I say, all the way back to the very inception of this project where, in fact, it was empty, or the first check-in where the first sets of media were added. And that goes all the way back to the 13th at 5 p.m. 2 days ago. So all 14 times that we've ever shared any changes or checked anything into this project are preserved for us. So Carl, I believe now, is actually looking at some more of the Jace's Places project. If you take us back, you want to show us some of that in After Effects?
Yeah. Actually, I don't think I have After Effects open. I was going to rely on your
I can do the same thing. So
wonderful skill in After Effects.
I do indeed have After Effects.
I just wanted to point out, I was kind of reviewing this 30-second copy of the Jason Levine Amsterdam Jace's Places show that he's working on. And I love this shot of the iconic sign, but the sky was just too blue. It's too plain. It doesn't represent the beautiful skies here in Amsterdam. So I'm wondering if maybe we can do something and replace the sky on this footage. And again, because team projects, one team project can be accessed from Premiere, After Effects, and Media Encoder. It's easy enough to go over into After Effects and open the exact same assets, the exact same timelines, exact same media, and build out compositions. So why don't we go back over to Niels?
That sounds good. So yeah, as Carl says, a team project is not specific to either of our DVA video apps. It is it's a superset, in effect, of the different media types that can exist inside Premiere and After Effects. So it can contain clips, comps, sequences, subsequences, nested comps, you name it. They can all exist within a team project, so they're visible from either application. So I now have the exact same team project open in After Effects. And as Carl mentioned, he was interested in bringing some of that sky out. So why don't I just go over to the effects panel over here, and I'm going to call up the Lumetri effect, which started life in speed grade many moons ago, but is now a kind of lingua franca for color work inside both Premiere and After Effects. I'm going to drop it onto that layer. And if I call up the Lumetri color effect up here and go to the curves, we have these new curve presets that you were actually seeing just inside before. And if I go to hue versus saturation, I can actually use the color picker to sample the sky there. And you see I've got, it's automatically preset the dot with two outer points for the wider range of chroma correction. If I now lift that up, you get this nice slider which shows you exactly where the intensity of that is going to go. So I can pull that way up, and now the sky is really jumping out at us. It's much, much, much brighter. So I'm pretty happy with that as an effect. If I head back to the same team project, the exact same mechanism of sharing project information is here in After Effects also. I can then go and share my changes to the team project server. Once again, adding a comment to reflect what I did. Raised the sky saturation, share, and that will again now go ahead and resolve that with the team project server for anyone else collaborating to be able to retrieve.
Now, Niels is being a little bit modest here. I just want to point this out. That's a piece of Adobe stock that's actually been put behind the Rijksmuseum for this this comp. If we go back to my screen for a second, you'll notice here's the original shot as placed. There's no clouds whatsoever. So not only did Niels build out a mask for the bottom half of the shot. We replaced out the sky, and then he used color saturation on top of that. So again, the power of After Effects living inside the team project. I'm going to go ahead and get those changes here so that I can actually see this composition. The composition will show up and act similar to a video clip. It just lives in the project bin, and I can pull from that. I can load it up in the source monitor. I could trim it further, and then I can just drag it and replace it right onto the timeline here. So as soon as this finishes updating, and I'll take his version. I was playing around with adding some additional markers here just for myself. But once we've got that, there's the version Neil's just finished. Looks much more vibrant, much more dynamic. I can just take this and drag it and drop it right over the top, right into Premiere. Using the power of dynamic linking between Premiere and After Effects, we're able to go and do this. So that's kind of team projects in a nutshell. The ability to work collaboratively, even side by side or over great distances. Team Projects does not put any of your media in the cloud. We allow you to use any third-party utility or use Creative Cloud files as a way of synchronizing your data, your actual media files. So things like IBM Aspera, Dropbox, whatever you need to synchronize back and forth. We simply handle the project data and make it easy for people to work across different continents if you wanted to. And also efficiently work across different platforms. I don't know if you noticed, but Neil's is on a Windows machine. I'm on a Mac. No offline media, no pathing to worry about. You set up your path on each machine for each login, and it just automatically knows where your media is on your local machine. Now, I'm going to switch gears here very quickly to touch on the other way of doing collaboration inside of Premiere Pro. This is using something we call shared projects. The idea behind shared projects is to work with a whole series of different projects within Premiere Pro. This is designed for a local workflow. This workflow can handle hundreds of thousands of files. It's been battle tested on several feature films now. It allows for people to kind of split up and work the way they want to work. It's very, very flexible. The idea behind this is each inside of this master project, this is just a standard Premiere Pro project. I have turned on my system something called project locking, and I've given this system a name. I call it my IBC stage system. Each of these folders that you see within the project are separate Premiere Pro projects on disk. So if I choose to reveal this in Finder, you can see here are all the Premiere Pro projects that make up part of this master project. So I can create different projects for reels. I can create different projects for scenes. So if you're used to editing and using scene bins, instead of having one massive Premiere Pro project that takes forever to load, this allows you to cut down and break up your media depending on how you want to work, so that you can have hundreds of smaller projects and just organize them using the master project to very quickly go in and work with whatever you want to work with. Now you'll notice here, inside of my master project, currently the music project and Reel 3 are locked. That indicates there's another system in the back. Somebody else in another editing room is accessing these projects. Whoever opens the project first, they get read-write access. They can make changes to it. If I needed to get into the music project, I can still double-click on this and open it in a read-only mode. So by doing this, I'm not making any changes to it. I still have access to the same media library. I just have a little lock icon here telling me that I cannot delete anything, I can't add anything, I can't move anything around. So by putting all my music in a separate project, It means my main project is not super big. I don't have 100,000 music tracks that have to be indexed every time I open up the project. But if I'm going in and working on music, I just double click on the music project. Now, if I go back to my master project, in this case, I'm going to go back over here. I can see all the projects at a glance of what I currently have open here. Where is my master project? I think I'm hitting a little bit. Let me just open that up right here. There we are. So I can still see that music is still locked by the DMG lab. I'm going to go into Reel 1 here, and you'll see my Reel 1 project from the master project. At a glance, I'm seeing who is in here. We have a metadata column called Project Locked, so that at a glance I can see who has which project open. If I want to release Reel 1, if I get a phone call from the lead editor saying, oh, I got to get in and make a change to Reel 1 before the director gets here, all I have to do is click the lock icon, and now I have it open in read-only mode, and another editor could jump in and take ownership of this. So I don't even have to close it. I just have to release the lock on it. So this workflow, again, it is designed for within a facility, using shared storage, keeping all of the assets in one location, and multiple editors working together. Team projects, just to wrap up. This is our cloud-centric method of collaboration. We use file syncing services to share assets, and it's up to you to choose. It works with any system where you can share assets. It even works if you just have 2 copies on 2 different drives. That's what we're actually doing here today. It shares the project data through the Creative Cloud so that people can work across great distances and have more of an immediate sharing changes, getting changes back and forth. Nothing ends up locked. We resolve any conflicts as they happen. So 2 different methods of collaboration. Anything to...
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, just two distinct approaches to sharing projects with other users to fit any workflow, really, regardless of whether you're remote or whether you're within a facility together. We think we pretty much have all bases covered.
I think so. So thanks again for another wonderful demo.
Cheers.
And thank you guys. Please stick around. I will be up in just a minute or so. I just need to reset my computer to do a deeper dive into the new features coming in the next release of After Effects. So stay tuned.